Welcome to the Jockey Club, a podcast looking at the movie Let It Ride, one scene at a time. My name is Dan Delgado, and we're at historic Hialeah Park where one man is having the best day of his life.
I'm having a good day.
So come on in and hang out while we talk about this day and the greatest movie of all time, Let It Ride. Don't worry about that guy at the door. I've got you covered. You can even
take my seat to the Jockey Club.
Welcome back to the Jockey Club. My name is Dan Delgado, and we are up to episode 15, which means that we are doing the 15th scene of Let It Ride. And really, it's the 15th scene according to me. And we have finally made it. With this scene, we're finally entering the Jockey Club. That's right, where you can talk to guys with all their teeth. This is also the first time that we're seeing Jennifer Tilly, Alan Garfield, and Michelle Phillips. And at over 5 minutes, this is the longest scene that we've looked at so far. And if you're playing along at home, this is from minute 36:19 to minute 41:45. And I will inform you that my usual table at the Jockey Club was not available. Must have been some sort of a mix-up. And so I ended up sitting in the corner, which really means I have an occasional echo that comes in here and there. Joining me at my table in the corner is Eric Delgado, my former radio co-host, a gambler, and the person I saw Let It Ride with a lifetime ago. Okay, so now let's head on up to the Jockey Club to discuss actual real-life Jockey Club experiences, telling someone that you're on the pill, and yes, the 15th scene of Let It Ride. We're finally here. We're to the moment for this podcast, right? Which has not been the moment for the movie for me ever, but it is the moment because this is where we're finally going to the Jockey Club, 15 episodes in.
Yes, sir. That's funny you say it that way because I might have a different opinion about this scene.
Do tell.
I mean, just in viewing it again, which is probably like, I don't even know, 14th time, whatever it is.
Right.
I'm realizing that this scene is kind of like sublime for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's so many, there's a lot going for me with this scene, but it's such a surprise, honestly, in the movie, because this is what Chris was going through my head today, is pretty much every speaking part in this movie, everybody has like a mini arc going on. Like, okay, you just think about like any typical movie, right? Guy gets in the cab, your main character, he has an interaction with the cab driver, but it's like, okay, where to, mister? And then it's like, all right, hey, good luck with that thing, whatever. That's it, right? Cab driver spoke, yep, we had to acknowledge it. No, in our situation, the cab driver's got like opinions, right? The cab driver's going to get like, a close-up so that he reacts to something, a look on his face, Every character that in this movie, I should say that every speaking part is a character. And so by the time we get to the Jockey Club, it's like you might easily feel like, all right, we've seen everybody that we're going to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. We're not getting any new characters that we're going to care about, really. We're 35 minutes into the movie, 36 minutes actually to be specific. We're 36 minutes into the movie. All of our main characters, we've already established who they are. And honestly, we've met a lot of characters already. We've met, I don't know, like 10 characters so far, right?
Right. And it's like, so you can't expect that we're going to contribute anything else to this story character-wise. We've got his wife. We know that she's lurking in the background somewhere. We've got the loony issue. We've got the ticket seller issue. We've got the huge, the plot of the film, which is his day at the track.
Right. Yep.
And now you get here, and it's like they introduce two of the just bonus, absolute fantastic characters. They're just, whoa. You know, like I had no idea that we were gonna get here, you know, with this. I'm already stressing. I've already got it figured out, you know, what we're doing. The Jockey Club is just going to be like a nice little respite. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jockey Club kind of turns into the flip side of what's going on at Marty's bar, right? And then ultimately it becomes sort of like the same thing in a way as what's going on at Marty's bar. This is where he wants to go. He wants to assimilate with all of these fancy people. And in the end, they dislike him after he wins.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's
right.
fantastic.
I'm definitely jumping ahead, but just kind of pointing out the differences in the two places.
Right. The
I
social
do want to point out, just before we get any further into this, is that the scene begins with now he's walking through the grandstand, and then he's going upstairs, and now we're getting like fine classical music. Right. The score turns into from the kind of the tuba trumpet based soundtrack from Giorgio Moroder, who drives a car called the Marauder. And now we're going upstairs. And as we're walking upstairs, very briefly, but I just wanted to be pointed out that you could see the pink neon sign that says the Jockey Club, and then there's a pink neon flamingo, and that is the exact logo of this podcast.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's on screen for less than a second, I think.
Great grab. Yes.
There we go.
It's like
no reason whatsoever.
All
right, thank you very much. You can now continue with whatever you were saying. That was very important, and I interrupted for that.
Oh, no, that's quite all right. But just to speak to that, right, the way you see it in the film for that split second,
yes,
it seems to be calling to the elite.
Yes.
So,
right? Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. He's going to ascend.
He is literally ascending as he is going up those stairs, right? As he's going up the stands to wherever the Jockey Club is. Right. He gets escorted to his seat, and you know he doesn't necessarily fit in right away because the first thing he does is he pulls the dollar from out of his shoe to do the tip.
Right. Yeah. This capture is so funny, right? Because I'm thinking, I don't know what the hell's going to come out of there.
Right.
You know, he's just reaching, like somehow he's got, like, it almost looks like he's filing through, you know, like, all right, let me get the, yes.
Yep.
And it's the most disgusting looking dollar.
Yeah, it's all like perfectly like crinkled into a cylinder almost.
Yeah.
Right? It does. You can tell it's probably sweaty and nasty.
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, I'm impressed that the maitre d' takes it.
It's his, right, it's his,
whoever.
It's quite the lowbrow moment for him in that situation. And you're right, yes.
And so here's who we're meeting. Here's who's at the table. And I guess this is the horse trainer's table, right? So these must be his friends, right?
Right.
So we have Greenberg, or Bernie. That's Alan Garfield, wearing a snazzy pink blazer. There is a Japanese movie poster for Let It Ride, right? And I don't know if you've seen it, but it's got a big close up of Trotter, and like yelling like a lunatic.
Okay.
And then there's just all these little, like a collage of a bunch of different other images.
Right.
You know, Money and all the other characters. But then there's I think it's very funny, there's a very big standing up Alan Garfield in the pink blazer. It feels way more prominent on the poster than he is in the movie.
Right.
But I love it.
Right. Like almost like, right, like he might be his antagonist or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I guess in a way he sort of is, you know.
Well, I mean, right, you know, the one physical one, I guess, you know. Yeah.
Exactly, right. I don't know. Is he the antagonist? Is Looney the antagonist? You could make a case for, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
just fate in general, right? You know, luck, society, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. So anyway, so we've got Bernie, and then we also have Vicky. And this Jennifer Tilly. It's the first time that we're seeing her. And there's a real Born Yesterday vibe that's happening with those two characters, right? She's clearly with him. He's clearly an asshole, right?
Yes.
Like, you get it immediately. I am a rich, obnoxious jerk.
Right.
And she is his ditzy, but kind of not as ditzy as she seems girlfriend.
Right. Yes. Yeah, these characters are so... Well, it's kind of funny what you just said, because in both cases, there's so much more than that. Like, they could easily just be cliches. But Alan Garfield... I'm thinking after this time he does this, because, he's just basically done a version of this in Beverly Hills Cop 2, where he was the mayor, I think, or the chief of police.
Yeah. I think he's the chief of police.
Yeah. And so at this point, I think this is like, and we've also seen it in Mother Jugs and Speed.
Oh my God.
Right? So, like, I'm just thinking of times where he's basically this character. In The Brinks Job, he's not exactly, but again, like, I'm thinking all this time, all these roles are leading up to him perfecting it in this movie, where it's like, after this, in Hollywood, they're probably almost calling this, like, the Alan Garfield. Like, if you want this...
He's one of those guys that you're never disappointed to see, right?
He's hateable, like you said. He's immediately hateable. But he's also got this, like, weird kind of insecurity to it that makes you laugh at him.
Oh, yeah.
Even when he's being a dick. And so I remember hating him a lot more the first time. And that was probably my own maturity level. Okay. So, like, eventually I came to appreciate how hilarious he was, after that. Because, again, that first time, I just need Jay to get through this. It's a lot of, going on, man. I don't have time for this asshole over here. But it's so nuanced, And then you got, like you said, Vicky could easily be the ditzy blonde, who's going to say a bunch of vapid stuff. But... she's got a weird kind of rapport with Bernie, where she knows him. She's been paying attention. She's not just arm candy. She knows what Bernie's all about, to where every time he says something that's already hilarious, she has an even more hilarious add-on comment to what he said. And she does it a few times, right away. Like, when, so she says, he says the thing about his 700% increase to his condo.
Condos.
I don't even know how many I don't know. I mean, can you imagine having a place that you don't know how many bathrooms there are?
I know, it's so obnoxious.
It's 6. He found 6 bathrooms. But she still says it like, I'm ditzy, so it's okay that I say this. And then the Jay, like, reads the whole scenario so quickly, between the two of them, and gets himself so comfortable right away. This is where, like, I come to love this scene, because he just injects himself so quickly, and he's unfazed by Vicky or Bernie. Like, Bernie could easily be his foil, I should say his villain, but he's not. Like, Jay's going to handle him. And then you've got, I don't know if she has a name, but Michelle Phillips.
Okay, her name, a great question. Her name, I don't think it ever gets mentioned. I'm not sure, but her name is Mrs. Davis.
Oh, Mrs. Davis. You know what? I
Yes,
must know that. Yep, that sounds familiar.
I don't ever recall them saying it. I only know it from looking it up.
Right.
But yeah, she's Mrs. Davis. Yes, she is. I don't know. There's an interesting contrast between her and Vicky, right?
Yes.
Because, like, the Michelle Phillips character is this, middle-aged woman, but has this sort of air of sophistication. She's dressed very nice, and Vicky is, before Jay gets there, I'm guessing all eyes are disapprovingly looking at Vicky's dress before Jay gets there, right?
Without a doubt.
Probably the men are like, okay, and all of the ladies are like, oh my goodness, how dare they let this woman in here like this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, all right, now, she's so interesting. We don't get too much from her, but, all right, so... let's just address, since we brought up Michelle Phillips for a second here. So when she asks him for a pen, and then they start to chat a little bit. She likes this horse, Lord Byron. And it is so fascinating to me, right? Because first of all, the name Lord Byron certainly has some sort of fancy air to it, right? When we're tossing out that name.
Right.
It does not fit in with all of the other symbolic names, right? It totally feels like, and you add to that Lord Byron is the favorite in that race, right? Jay has not been betting on the favorite, and so here we are in the fancy place, and yes, you know what? I think you should bet on the fancy horse. That's obviously the favorite, right? There's something that's going on there. But then, all right, so a couple of things I want to ask you about. When he first talks to her, he says, "Can I buy you a drink?" And what does she say? I know you know this line.
I don't see why not. I'm on the pill.
There you go.
Yes.
Honestly, one of the oddest
shocking.
responses in any movie ever.
It's so shockingly
I
hilarious.
don't see why not.
Yep.
I'm on the pill.
Yes.
I don't even know what to do with that line. I'm not even sure that when I saw this movie that I fully got what she's saying there.
No, I'm thinking you don't.
Right? I mean, I know what the pill is at that age.
Right.
Right?
But
as a teenager, I'm aware of it. But
Yep.
I don't know. I'm also like, well, why is she telling him this? What
Yeah.
does that have to do with anything? I don't understand this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right. It's like, okay. You know, I was thinking about this too. Just these words, okay, in the theme song. When you cross the line to another place, there comes a time when you've got to let it ride.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, this is the instructions for this movie. You're crossing the line to another. To me, there's no more argument. When you throw that in the stuff you're seeing here, they're not being terribly deliberate about it, but it's for sure. And then this line to me is exactly part of that. Jay, never in his life, I'm guessing, that he'd ever walk up to a woman at any point and just blurt a line out like that and have a response like, yeah, and if you want to bang me, that's fine too.
Yes.
We can bang.
Yes. Right. And we should also point out this is already after he's been getting the little foot taps from Vicky.
From Vicky.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Look, this is, I will tell you, what's funny is that I remember like completely dismissing Terry Garr at this point, right at this point. Like, not actually saying she's out, but I've already forgotten about her. You know, like, whoa, look at Jay now.
I know. Well, we haven't seen her since the opening scene, so
Right.
she's been gone for a very long time.
Very long time.
A very long time.
Yes.
So it's totally understandable, and really a pair of very interesting choices have cropped up for Jay.
Yeah.
So I get where you're going there.
And, you know, Jay is crossing the line a little. He's flirting.
Oh, he's unquestionably flirting.
Right? I mean, this is...
Can I buy you a drink?
Right. Now...
He later asked her, do you come here often?
Yep.
You know, these are like the cliche opening flirting lines, right?
Right. Right. So this also helps me because I'm thinking, right, okay, I guess, you know, we're not going home. You know, I honestly, like I said, I don't even think I'm considering her at this point, Terry Garr.
Oh, yeah.
He's just got this situation. I mean, this is a ton to deal with between the two of them. So, again, I'm thinking, never in his life would he have... These are probably like his two fantasies are sitting here right in front of him right now. The one that's 20 years younger, right, and is just knocked down, drag out gorgeous. And then the, like, fancy, smanchy beauty queen in Mrs. Davis.
Yes. Who also is a degenerate gambler like he is.
Yeah.
Like, if he was together, like, if he was with her, right, she says, she goes to the track every day.
Every day?
Even Jay, I don't even think he goes every day.
No,
right?
You know what's funny is that he's doing, right, when she says this, he's doing, like, his faux, like, sophisticated voice.
Oh,
He's like,
yes, he is. And then he drops it when she says that. Yes.
Right. And it's so great, you know, as as a choice, for Dreyfus, because he's like, so do you come here often? You gamble? How often do you get every day? You gamble every day? That's like his, like he goes right to full J in the response. She doesn't change her reaction either. She doesn't go, what the hell? Oh.
Yeah, no. She's already fine. She's already in the conversation. She's in the game. Now, he asks her two interesting questions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That should be acknowledged. One of them is, how has gambling affected your home life? And she says,
ruined it.
yes, right? And then you see the gentleman that she's with.
Oh, my
guy
gosh.
who's on oxygen.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you also Jay notices at the same time that she has 5 rings on 4 fingers.
How can you not notice?
All diamond crusted. 3 of them are on 1 finger, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Yes, it's right. It's a battle.
It's an interesting choice because she left I think the middle finger has no rings on it, but the ring finger has 3. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So she says ruined it, and then his follow-up question is, has gambling affected your reputation?
She says, some people like to rub me for luck.
And she really does deliver that line with some serious conviction, too. Right?
And we skipped something. When she says the thing about the pill, he has 2 great asides. He turns and he says, rum.
Yes.
Right? And then when she says the rub me for luck, he says, let's hurry up with that rum.
Those are great.
Yeah. So,
but what I find funny, or I guess that's not funny about these 2 questions, is that they're like the Gamblers Anonymous questions. And I only learned that, and you did as well, watching that deleted scene. I would have never known that that's where those come from. Because I always found that those questions were like the home life question. I understand that one, but then affected your reputation. It makes sense as a question to ask, but it's like, okay, that's an interesting thing to be conscious of at this moment, right?
Yes. It's like, right, the way I view it before knowing is like, oh, it's Curious Jay. Look, he's just got questions. That's great. I never thought, like you said, but it lines up so perfectly with that deleted scene where this is on his mind, and this is something he's used to talking about and hearing about.
Yes.
And maybe he's got a hope somehow that, the answers will be better coming out of her.
I'm trying to remember what was the response to it. Yeah, honey, some people like to rub me for luck.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
which is
God.
a fantastic
All right. And
response.
that's the response.
Yeah, that response is so good, for him.
Oh, yeah. That's just the green light. That's just to go with it, right? We also have glossed over when they were talking about Lord Byron. I always find his musing on the name.
Stop. Don't. It's
so cringeworthy.
It is cringeworthy.
So cringeworthy.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Poetas. Like all that stuff he's doing.
Poetatis.
To sound sophisticated.
Yes.
Oh.
Right. He just assumes this is how the other side mull over their decisions.
Yes, this is it. Yes, I'm going to sit here and put on my airs and think about the name Lord Byron. What does it mean to me?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of hate him right there for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, also the wild turkey.
Yeah.
Orders a wild. Do you have any wild turkey in season?
Yeah. All right. That's great too, right? Because here's the thing is that there's a lot of Pitka in this scene, his commercial Pitka, because you're getting all of these faces and reactions that really would, if this were normal, they're not paying any attention once you've walked in. But for some reason,
true.
He's got them reacting from 3 tables over, to something he said, especially, look, with money on the line and everything else, look, you're occupied. But in this scene, he takes you there, and it's totally fine. But it's like, it's so Pitka, the way he's bouncing faces around. And when he says, he says, ha, 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 ha. That's what everybody else is like, I don't know if I like that. And then he doubles down, right? And says, F the audience, and says, kill one for me.
Yes.
So it's like, that's just so Pitka right there.
Jay. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go and we're going to bet Lord Byron. We're now convinced that because we've talked to Mrs. Davis, who has lived a life of gambling, and, like you think about her, she's married. Is this like her millionth marriage that she's on? Like, I don't exactly know.
That
right?
seems like what's going on.
Right? Like, she's been married several times.
Yeah, it's
this
easy
dude
for
on
her.
Oxygen he's the latest.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And yeah, like this is I don't even know when I think about that. Like, what is that telling me? She's right. That gambling probably has ruined her life, but she's just rolling with it anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't even know how much she means it, because the way she says it is like it's delicious. Ruined it.
Yeah, it's ruined it, but I still kind of enjoy the gambling.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like right now we've caught her where, her routine is like in peak shape, where she gets the man and then she controls the man and the man is completely oblivious and she does whatever she wants, even right in front of him, where she's like flirting with Jay.
Oh yeah, that's true. He is at her table.
Yes.
This guy on the Oxygen, and no problem.
No
just
concerns.
talking to Jay right in front of this guy.
Right.
Who's just coughing and breathing into his oxygen.
This could be his last day.
Yeah. Just waiting it out.
Yep. And it's no concern to her.
Now let's discuss for a moment the Clubhouse bar. So this was the closest thing, I think, that you would have in your own personal experience to going to the Jockey Club.
Okay, this is a great question because it was already on my mind.
Yeah.
Because the way the scene begins, actually, it's before this, right? He gets the invitation he gets the seat at the Jockey Club before he bets Faith Healer. And then he wanders around, he has a cheeseburger, he talks to Looney, he talks to Cheeseburger, he makes the bet downstairs, then he watches the race, as we've already discussed in that little crappy area with the TV. Okay. I just kind of recently learned about this. I haven't done a lot of research, but I realized this is me. There's like this condition where you deny yourself pleasure, not forever, but like you put it like on a shelf. And so oddly enough, where I see it crystallized is in an episode of Modern Family where
where else would you see it?
Yeah, it's Cam and Mitchell do this, right? And of course it's hilarious, like they've got this bottle of wine that they've been saving and they refuse to open it no matter what occasion it is. It's like it's not good enough. Like the issue is it's like you have to somehow decide that you've earned whatever this privilege is, whatever it is. And so I see this a little bit here in Jay, where he doesn't go and take him up on it right away. It's not until he wins that next bet for the 2,500. Then he very calmly and coolly takes himself up there. And I relate to this because, like I said, I realize now it's funny the timing, because like I've been thinking about this for a few weeks only because I saw this, like I said, on the show. And then, of course, seeing the scene, and I realized it's exactly how I would have handled it, like you just brought up, which is I don't go in there, when I first walk in with my $40, I'm not trying to sit at the Jockey Club or at the clubhouse or even treat myself to anything. Like, I know I'm probably going to eat tonight while I'm here. Of course, let's just say that $40 is gone in the first or second game. If it is, it's a short night, and I get out of here, and it's on to other things.
Okay.
So I don't go and like you see people at the ball game, right? They get their seats, and all of a sudden they're dragging in, a giant Coke or a beer and the hot dog and the popcorn, and they're trying to sit down in their seat and all that. That's not how I would ever approach the gambling at Highlight. It was like, let's see if I'm going to earn my way through this tonight. And so at some point, and this wouldn't happen every night, because there'd be nights, right, where I would struggle the whole way and I'd walk out of there with my $40 or without it. But it was like at no point was I ever, maybe I was always between $20 and like $60 the whole night. that night was a battle, right? So so there's these other nights where, I'll hit some nice $200-$300 trifecta, and I'll be like, oh, I'm good for the whole night now. I'm gonna just cruise. I'm gonna do whatever I like, and that's when it's like, oh, I'm hungry. Suddenly, I'm gonna go eat, right? So similarly, if it went to the next level, right, where maybe I'm winning 500 or more, then I'm thinking about the clubhouse, right? Now it's okay, now I've earned the right to be here. And so I feel like Jay there does the same thing. Of course, that clubhouse, that Jockey Club, you need I guess you need to have a seat in advance. So it's even more fancy. At Highlight, you just...
I don't even know how... That's the level of fancy where I don't even know how that actually works. Take my seat as though this is his season ticket.
Exactly what it seems
That's
like.
how he gives it to him.
Exactly, right. You've got to shell out for that thing. And... Right, so it's a whole different level. But I feel like that's what's happening. Like, when he goes, and he's putting the tie on, but he's not concerned. He's just like, okay, I've arrived. Let's go.
Yeah.
And he very casually makes that approach. So I related to that 100% because that was, you didn't just stumble in to the clubhouse either. And I don't know if you remember this, but there were nights. Really, when I was taking you, this would happen more often. Like, that was that period where I would buy, like, the general seating, which was, like, $2 or $4, whatever it was. And then when things started to go really well, I would go and I would upgrade, and I would get those front row seats. Do you remember those seats?
All right, so wait. Now, when you say the front row seats, do you mean, like, the front? And,
yes. Yeah, like, with the really nice... soft leather chairs. They had those like box seats.
Oh, I know exactly the ones you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might have called them luxury seating or something like that. And they were like $12. So just imagine, like towards the end where it was like they're begging you to come, right?
Yeah. Was it free at the end?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well,
eventually it was free to get in, sit wherever you want.
Right. At some point, it was even free for that. Then they removed all that and they changed it up. But yeah, there was a period there where those were free. But in the earlier part, when there were, a few thousand people there, I would do that because, again, it really, honestly, the view was great, right? They would interact. The players would interact way more easily over there. So you had a chance to you could shout from the cheap seats. That was fine, but it wasn't like they were always going to acknowledge you. But from there you could, right? So it was actually, there was some stake in it, right? So This is my point, right? So I wouldn't do that because like I said, a lot of nights I came there with like $30 to begin with. So I'm not spending 24, for you and I to sit, right? Or me and my girlfriend or whatever. So that would be like, again, another a privilege, So in both cases, I know that exact feeling. It's like, oh, it's time. Okay, we're ascending.
Yeah.
So that's how he treats it. He doesn't just immediately go, here I am with my $700 win. He waits until, okay, I'm a little more established. I thought that was, that couldn't be by accident. Like that was somebody in the know explaining that whole phenomenon.
Well, that's Jay Cronley is.
That would be the degenerate.
Yeah, I think Jay Cronley was where we're going with that one, right?
Right.
It's all Jay.
Yeah.
All right, and so tell me about though your Jockey Club experience. Like when you were there, did it feel as though you had other fancy people? I remember that when I was there, it didn't necessarily feel like as fancy as I thought it might feel. Of course, my perspective was probably very different because it's just like, oh, this is just sort of a restaurant. And now we're looking over. I mean, the view of the court from that restaurant high above was fantastic. I do believe maybe that's the first place I went to that had like a little television on the table. Right? I don't think I'd seen that before. But when you went up there, and I know you went up there with lots of your lady friends,
right?
Correct.
Yes.
Just want to establish this.
Right.
When was it like, hey, here's this fancy experience. Here's this upper echelon that we're at now?
You were treated like it was. That's for sure. Now, what I just described, like I said, where I would ascend, is different from there were other times where it was part of the plan. So here's how that would work. Like, I would have like a good week, right? Where, I've been 2 or 3 times already in the last 6-7 days or whatever. And I'm up like $1,000, since last Thursday or something like that. So now here comes Friday night or Saturday night, and we're going directly there. We're buying the tickets. We're going to get the dinner, and we're going in there dressed up. And yes, exactly. So whole different experience from the beginning. And if I remember this correctly, you had to be seated by a certain time. You couldn't just wander in and eat. So if you did, I should say there was probably a different menu for it. I think that might have been the case. But the dinner menu started at it actually started pretty well before. So that was a little bit, I didn't love that, like you had to be there at
they're not serving you during the games. They're not serving you all
right.
the time. Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was, but the thing was, and again, like what you said, I mean, I wasn't the most worldly guy at the time. So my experience might be a little off. This is between the ages of 18 and, 25. But it definitely was, one of the big, meals was prime rib.
Oh.
Okay.
Now you're talking.
Right. And it was not cheap, man. It was $25 a plate for that 35 years ago.
It's not messing around.
Yeah. We were shelling it out. Yeah. Look. I was dropping 100 plus, for that meal, and think about it. There were nights I went there and I didn't even buy myself $1 Coke, So the disparity between those two experiences. What's funny too is that there was all kind. There was, unfortunately, there'd be a lot of pressure on those nights to perform because we've already invested so much.
Oh, okay. So that now this affected your betting, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, well, I mean, in the regard that it felt like I have to come out of here a winner, because how do you reconcile all this if you don't?
Yeah.
So man, what you hate the idea of that, and we've talked about that with traveling to a Mets game. It's like you know what I mean? You put in all that effort and then they lose.
Yeah.
You're just going to kill yourself, on the way home from, why did I?
That's right.
Yeah.
Why did we drive from Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta and then come right back for them to lose? Why did I spend all of this money to sit in this place only to watch Mujica drop the ball right out of the cesta?
Mujica.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Highlight name for there's a reference for no one.
Very nice.
But nonetheless, to watch him drop the ball and ruin my trifecta.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, often, right, so, I mean, depending on the relationship I was in, because at some point it was people that well understood what was going on, right? So then there
people you've indoctrinated.
Exactly. And so in those cases, I didn't necessarily feel the same about having to go, look at this, big winner, look at me, I know what I'm doing.
Did you see other people up there that you would have recognized, like Bernie or Vicky or Mrs. Davis, or did you not pay attention to them? It wasn't it was more like a restaurant where they're just going to seat you somewhere, not like, here's your assigned seat. Trotter is stuck with those people. He's stuck with Vicky. He's stuck with Bernie, for better or worse, right?
Absolutely.
But did you notice the other people and take them in at all?
Well, what's funny is that, before I first start to do it, I'm probably there, I'm probably going for maybe even a couple of years before I even think about something like that. Right. And in those couple of years, of course, man, those were the days where there was 7,000-8,000 people there. It was freaking packed, and it wasn't even a big deal to me. That was how it was, from the minute I went, that's what it was like. And so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, the humanity. You know what? It was just what it was. But during those times, I remember seeing the people come from somewhere down to the riffraff and to watch, and they'd be in fancy clothes, like it made me go like, what is this? There'd be women in like gowns, and the guy in like a tux. That would happen. And
Yeah.
I would start to see these, again, like you said, I didn't know them by name or anything like that, but I'd see these same, 50 or so people that looked like, well, where'd they come from? And so I knew that they, on a regular basis, they were enjoying that. And then, once I started to go, just being straight up honest, no matter how much money I was rolling around with, I never felt like I really belonged there.
Okay, that's understandable. I don't think that I would ever feel that. I wouldn't feel that way today if I went to a place like that.
Right? Yeah.
No.
Right. So at some point, it was like, let me fake it. Right. And then after a while, it was like we'd all be in on it. Whoever I was with would be like, look how crazy this is. Isn't this cool?
Can you believe we made it? That we're here?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Total spazzes.
Yeah. And so, so the guy walking by holding his wife's, mink or something, just never fazed me. It was just, that's where we're at,
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't interact, with anybody there. Now the servers, they would get more familiar. So I remember that. But again, they were so well trained. I mean, I'm sure the whole philosophy behind everything going on up there was get them betting.
Right.
So you were never, okay, I can only imagine it was something like this. Look, this is a crowd that a guy goes from having $100 in his pocket to $5,000, and then all of a sudden you look like somebody who deserves $100 tip for nothing. So treat them like royalty all the time.
Yes. And okay, so in this movie, Jay comes up with his next bet, Lord Byron, and decides I better go bet it. Now we know he's got to take the money out of the shoes, go downstairs.
I'm thinking about all of this.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. Now, I would think that they would have some way for you to bet whilst you're in the Jockey Club. Now,
Absolutely.
I know Jay has a very specific reason. He's carrying around $2,500 in his shoes, right? So he's not going to pull them out, even though he did pull $1 out of the shoe. He's not going to pull them out and throw them on the table and be like, here you go. So he's going to have to go and handle that situation. But was it like that at Dania? Did people come and take the bets at the table?
Yes.
So you wouldn't have to leave. You could just sit there and drink your cocktails.
Right. And again, this is just another testament to how I felt. I never ever did that unless it was absolutely necessary. We're talking about a handful of times ever that I would convey my bets that way. But yes, the higher ups were doing that all the time. There would be usually a pretty girl, like the cigarette girl, would be like a comp.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Right?
Okay.
So she comes over and, depending on the level of technology, because I'm guessing, but with Let It Ride, it's probably they've got some kind of device already at that point. But it gets better, eventually it gets to where they just type something in and prints a ticket. I think what they would do in the beginning was they would write everything down. They'd have a way to log it, and then they'd go get them the tickets. And then you'd have that taken care of. And that was happening all over upstairs and even downstairs to some level, to some extent. But it was certainly a perk. So for sure, in that Jockey Club situation, nobody was doing what he did. Nobody. Everybody was getting catered to as to their bet.
Yeah, for a second I was just thinking, well, why would he get up and do that? But then I started to remember, oh, that's right. He's not going to take even he's smart enough to not take his shoes out and put them on the table and pull all the cash out to give to somebody for Lord Byron.
It would have been nice if there was a little bit of recognition about that. Like maybe they missed a cue there. because he does do it with the dollar. So then maybe like you can see him,
he does
like reaching down and then maybe going like
yeah, thinking
right?
about it like, oh, that's not a good idea. You're right. There should be something there. I'm just presuming for Jay, right? I'm just projecting my own thoughts like, oh, I certainly wouldn't do that if I had all this money in my shoes. That would look stupid.
Right.
So I don't want to blow it here. But yeah, first thing he does when he gets there is pull out the sweatiest, most disgusting dollar bill
right,
and gives it to somebody.
right. Yep. Lowbrow Jay.
There you go. Lowbrow Jay.
Like I said, I mean, honestly, this scene kind of changes the movie for me because it's so casual, even though you know what's going on there, but like there's tension for me throughout the film up till now because he is letting it ride. He's putting a lot on the line, and now it's like he's getting the spoils of victory, and his attitude changed. He's able to have different interactions without any stakes associated with it at this point.
Yes.
Everybody else he interacts with are people he knows or people who look down on him, like the ticket seller. So I just remember really being at ease here. And then even he, the way he like, what he does? He delights in Vicky, with her responses. Even when he's walking out to go bet, he runs into her and she said, he says, excuse me. And he says like, can I get you anything? Flowers.
Yeah, but what does he say right after that? After she walks away?
What does Jay say?
Yes.
Oh, I don't. What does he say? Quaaludes. Yo. Right. Which I don't. That's one I don't really get. What do you get from that?
He's suggesting that she takes Quaaludes, is what she's.
Oh, okay. All right. Because under current conditions, we know who else was. What else was going on with Quaaludes in the day.
Well, I mean, I don't think they were still manufacturing Quaaludes by 1989.
No, I know, but all right, let's just move on from that. So,
wait, are you suggesting somebody else was taking Quaaludes?
No, I'm suggesting that like we know now this was a good way to give to a girl.
Oh, I see. No, I don't think that's how he meant it. I think he like that's the type of attitude.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think he was right. I think he was making a reference to her already.
Yeah. Yeah, unlike you're making like a Bill Cosby reference is what you're doing here, right? Is that what's happening?
Is that the guy?
That's the guy.
I know there's a guy.
There's a guy. Yeah,
right.
yeah, that's the guy.
So you know what's even... Okay, the best line... the way the scene ends is when, after that happens, it's a little adorable exchange. He goes walking away. Then you hear Bernie off screen, and he says, you have another collision like that, we're going to get you fitted for glasses. It's so hilarious because it's like he's so out of touch every time he speaks. He's out of touch. He's an asshole.
He cannot help but be an asshole, and he's frequently annoyed. He's made the choice of Vicky. That's his girl, and she's really like this adorable, gorgeous woman, right?
She is,
but she annoys him all the time.
Right, like
all the time.
Yes.
Right? When she says earlier, she wants to ask him who he wants to bet on, and she asks it wrong. She doesn't say, who do you want or who do you like? She says she says it some other way. And then he's like, it's who do you like?
Yep.
Right? He has to correct her on that.
Yeah, you know what it's like if we were not to get too deep, but it's almost like he's trying to bring her down to his standard. Or to lower her so that it looks like, look, I'm the one giving you a tumble. You're just an ignorant hick, whatever.
Exactly right.
So he's always putting her down. Yeah. But
we do know that one motivation for this that we've learned is that Bernie's already lost his ass today.
I know. Look, like I said, she has so many of these. She just kind of turns to him. Yeah, Bernie's already lost his ass today.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so great, right? And she's able to get away with it. And Jay is just delighting in all of it.
Yeah, in all of it. Yeah.
And as big of an asshole as Bernie is, he's a guy. And I'm not naming any names, but we know guys like this in our orbit. Where it's like, you just want to be around them because the shit that's going to come out of their mouths, aggressively or not, is going to just be great fodder.
Oh, yeah.
You
That's
know,
true.
and this is Bernie.
Yeah.
Like I would, when I first saw the movie, I wanted to punch Bernie right in the face. But after that, I learned like, no, Bernie's he's a good time.
Yeah, you might want to be in the room with Bernie and just see what happens, right?
Right. You don't even have to. Yeah, you don't have to get involved.
I get you.
But if you know what you're doing to like prod him just a little bit, point him in the right direction, yeah, he can entertain you all night.
He's just going to make it happen. Yeah, I got it.
Hey, keep this in mind too. $2,500 times 2 is $5,000.
You know, low stakes, Jay. That's low stakes for you.
Really? I mean, it's like, and it's such a humble brag.
It is. I know it is. Like this. He has to say it because he needs her to know how much I'm betting.
Right.
I'll be dropping $2,500 on this horse
Which
you like.
Right.
By the way.
And you know, he's actually not. He's got to pay for that rum. He only got $2,450. Right? We know he doesn't have $2,500. He's got $2,400.
That's right.
Lions SOB.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Jockey Club. This episode was hosted and produced by me, Dan Delgado. Thank you to my guest, Eric Delgado. Our theme music is from Epidemic Sound, and our cover art is by Sean Labrie. If you enjoyed this episode, and yes, I would like to think that you did, then you can help the show out by buying me a coffee. This is really a thing. There is a link to it in the show notes on how to do it. It's in the show description right there. There's a little link. It'll say, buy me a coffee. You can click on it and send a few dollars my way. Now, if you say, Dan, I can't do that. I've got a big race coming up this weekend, and I'm saving all of my money to put it on the long shot to win. Well, of course, I understand. So you can still support the show by leaving a free 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you may be listening to this. If you wanted to contact me to discuss Let It Ride, 5-star reviews, or anything else, my email is dan@moviemaker.com. I am always on Twitter. It is @_Dan_Delgado, or even better, I'm on the Repod app, which is a fine way to not only to listen to podcasts, but to interact with podcast hosts like me. Find it in the App Store. Come on by and say hello. This has been Dan Delgado for the Jockey Club. And remember, you may be walking around lucky and not even know it.